Hello, I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this series of videos is called Spiritual Dilemmas. And it's called Spiritual Dilemmas because we're always in dilemmas, always. Probably, I'd say, 50 dilemmas every day. And you may not even know it because they're so much a part of who we are. It's like the water we swim in. We don't even know that it's happening to us. So for instance, how many times, well, you may not even ask yourself this question. I'll just say, how many times do you think, well, what would people think if I told them I felt this? What would people think if I shared something about myself? There's so many people who are artists and creatives that are afraid to let people see their work, even afraid to let people know that they're a creative. Or you might have a specific hobby that you're a nerd about, and yet you don't want people to know that, because what would people think? You might be a binge eater, but hide what you eat. You might be an alcoholic, but you hide that you're drinking. You might not even be an alcoholic or a binge drinker, but you're not wanting people to know that you are doing what you're doing or being how you're being. These are a challenge because there's part of ourselves that we are afraid to be rejected, afraid to be humiliated, to be bullied. We're afraid that people won't like us or care about us, or that in essence we are wrong. I know so many people. I have a particular client, I'll call him Melvin, and Melvin's mom, she got pregnant when she was 16 with Melvin, and she didn't have the capacity to be a loving mother. She didn't. Her own childhood and upbringing was disastrous, and she brought Melvin into the world, and she couldn't give him a sense of love that he so desperately wanted, as we all do. And so he began to continue to see himself based on what he thought his mother was thinking about him. So she would be the way she was being because she couldn't be anything else. But Melvin kept thinking it was because of him, that he was wrong, he was insignificant, he wasn't loved, he felt unloved. And so that part of him that continually created patterns in his life based on that. What would my mother think? And he always tried to do the right thing for the longest time to get his mom's approval so that she would think good things about him. Now, sometimes we can't get people to think good things about us. And it's not because we're wrong. It's not that there's something wrong with us, but other people don't have the capacity to see us in our full light. They don't have the capacity to love. They don't have the capacity to see the value of just you being you. They want you to be different to fit into their world because their world is based on what other people think too. So Melvin is learning, Melvin is in his 50s, Melvin is learning to not consider what other people think, but what's actually happening inside me. What is it that I want? What is the essential expression of me? What's my truth? What's my way of being in the world? These kinds of questions affect the way that he does business, the way that he is an employer, the way that he is a partner to his wife, the way that he is to his children. So the question of what will people think is in a sense detrimental to the way that we think. In fact, a lot of times we don't even know how we think because we don't allow ourselves to think for ourselves. We are somehow trained, and I heard this a long time ago when I was studying to be a therapist. In dysfunctional families, or in particular families, we're not allowed to know what we feel. We're not allowed to know what we think. We're not allowed to know what we need or what we want because we're so inundated, we're so, in a sense, domesticated to think about what other people think, what other people want and need, that we disregard that we have this whole being inside of us that needs our attention. And this is a big lesson for us, is to begin to listen to who we are inside and begin to acknowledge that person, acknowledge her needs or his needs, acknowledge who you are inside, the experience that you're having. A lot of people with who are not heterosexual that have a different orientation that's natural to them. So often they're not allowed, or they're so afraid because of what other people will think. People have gotten hurt, they've gotten killed for their way of being. And so it's it's there, but at the same time we need to start saying something different, or to even answer the question, so what will people think? What if you answered that question? What will people think? The funny thing is probably 50% of the population would think, awesome, great, I'm so glad you're being you. Now, 50% of the population would say, oh man, that's wrong, that's terrible, you're going to go to hell, you know, you're going to be punished for that. 50% are going to say, oh man, I am so thrilled that you're being you. So you get to decide. And that's that dilemma. Do I decide and maybe have people reject me or hurt me? Or do I decide and be me in the fullest expression of myself? So you get to decide what people will think. And that's what it comes down to always. I, for myself, have to practice that people will think good things. People will appreciate, people will value what I have to say. And if nothing else, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this because this is an expression of me. This makes me happy to do these kinds of videos, this kind of teaching, this kind of facilitation of self-empowerment. This makes me happy. This is an expression of me. And that's what I want for you, is to say, this is an expression of me, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And that's what's important, I think. All right, that's it for today. Many blessings. Bye for now.